I really think, man, we're just a bunch of animals. We're like a bunch of highly evolved animals.
Yeah.
Like we're showing off our like those birds who just show off their wings and their colors and stuff.
You're right.
That's all we're
Yeah.
doing. Like, so when you have like a fancy wedding, it's kind of like that in like a more advanced way.
You're right. That is so true. That's like a really good way to put it. It's like I have 2 cats and one is clearly the dominant cat. Like one is always like kind of like literally flexing like in front of the other cat and like pushing the other cat around, because that's like nature. Like there's always going to be a dominant and like a weaker one. And it's like humans like find the most peculiar ways to show this dominance, like through fancy weddings, like, you know.
Right. Like fancy weddings are like
fancy cars
super, just like more expensive stuff to like assert dominance or whatever it is. I don't know. It's really weird. And when I see things like that, it makes it so clear that we're just smarter animals, you know, like with more advanced stuff. Like, because when you watch animals, like if you ever watch those nature documentaries, they're just how they arrange their lives or whatever, whether it be more primitive than ours, it just looks like the same kind of setups that we do, just a little bit less advanced.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I don't know. Sometimes I'm just like, man, we're not as special as we think we are.
Yeah.
And other times I'm like, we're God. We're God and man. It's so weird. I'm like, we're nothing and everything at the same time.
That makes a lot of sense. Actually, it's so funny. That was actually like one of the, I'm not great at lyrics like I was saying before, but that was like one line that I was actually proud of that I wrote. I wrote a line that said, nothing is everything and everything is nothing, or nothing means everything and everything means nothing. And it was like illustrating exactly what you said. It was like, we are pretty much anything in life, like you can like break it down to either side. I'm not even making sense, but I'm trying to just reiterate exactly what you just said. I agree. You understand what I'm saying then.
Absolutely.
But like, it's so true. It's like, we're so important, but yet we're so small, you know?
Seriously. I mean, on the grand scale of things, because like, you know, you have your life and you've been you your whole life. So you're the main character of your story. It's no way to not be, because you've always been you, unless you're a person who's like more introspective and who looks and understands that, you know, there's other people who come from that same perspective who have their own stories. So it's like, you know, at the end of the day, if we're lucky, we get 75 to 85 years, right? So if we're lucky, you know, like we could be gone in an instant. That's why, like, I grew up religious, so I know a lot of stuff from the Bible. And even though I may not be like super religious today, even though I still kind of am, but I'm just in my own way. It's like when the Bible says, you know, we're just dust and things like that. It's like, man, we're just dust, bro. Our lifetime on the grand scale of the universe's lifetime, we're just nothing, you know? And so when I've been thinking deep about such trivial things, but like when I see dust, I'm like, is this like a Horton Here's a Who universe right here? Like, is there a little like
that's a smart, intelligent thought, because if like we're dust and this dust could have some, you know, universe in it. You know, it's funny that you say that. Like, I've been thinking like a lot about that too, about how small I really am on the grand scheme of things, and that's what's given me the courage to pursue artistic endeavors, because I realized that like, I don't really matter. Like, I know that sounds nihilistic in a way, or like
sounds
depressing,
nihilistic, but yeah, I think we're on the same page. Oh, finish what you were saying.
I was just like, I was basically just gonna say like I might be nervous that people are gonna laugh at me or make fun of me, or I guess if I'm doing comedy that they won't laugh at me. That's like the funny thing about that is that like you're usually worried that they'll laugh at you, but in comedy you're worried that they won't laugh at you. But you know, people worry about that kind of thing, but in the end of the day, like, I'm going to die. Like, it doesn't matter. None of this matters. And like, I'm going to die. Like, so
that's the greatest joke of all. Like, how I view is like, life is either a tragedy or a comedy. It's all based on your perspective. You know what I'm saying? Like, so what you were saying, how like nothing matters. I don't matter. So that's why I have to make my life matter. How I view things, right? Like, it's, dude, we're only like, it's weird. I know that we're just creatures who are here for a minute and then we're gone, and then in like 4 or 5 generations our names will never be spoken again. Like, literally, we probably know our great grandparents maybe, but who are their parents and then their parents? They had a life, but we probably don't talk about them. And like, us being like in the younger generation, you're a millennial. I think I'm like the oldest Gen Zer, right?
Oh, so you're not technically a millennial anymore?
There's a lot of different charts. I don't know.
Wow.
They say that people who were born in 96, I was born in 96. They say that we're like the first generation Z people, right?
Okay,
So
now this is how old I am. I don't even know what that means. Can you explain to me what a Gen Z is?
they say people who are Generation Z were born between 96 and 2015.
And
or
what are
something
their
like that.
characteristics?
Well, same shit as
As millennial?
millennials.
Yeah,
Like,
I was gonna say
it
like
might be even worse. Like with they say entitlement, or like they all want instant gratification.
that's what they say about millennials, but I feel like in our case it's like because we like experience both. Like millennials experience both because like I grew up not having a computer. Like there weren't computers when I
Right.
mean there were, but not like in everybody's home.
Yeah. You guys had like the microwave computers.
Exactly.
I mean, I did too. I mean,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
but yeah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I didn't really have anything else to say.
But yeah, I mean, it's not like it's not a far cry from me to you. You're, I think, 8 years older than me. That's
Yeah.
not like crazy.
Huge, yeah.
Like, so the millennial generation are the people who are now going to start inheriting like that adulthood position. And the Gen Zers, me and people younger than me who are like 15 right now, let's not consider the 10-year-olds, like they're still trying to become humans.
Yeah.
But like the 15-year-olds, there's a big gap between me and them, probably like a very large gap. But we kind of see things because like you lived through the 90s as like a prepubescent going into a teenager, and I was a 90s baby and then going into like the mid 2000s as a prepubescent then teenager, you know, like so it's not so different. But damn, there was a point when we got to this point. Oh, okay. So I want to be remembered. I really do. I want to impact people in a positive way, and I want my progeny, my family who comes after me, to look at me as an ancestor that they could gain some inspiration from, whether it's like the principles I decided to live by or the people I touched. Like, I don't want to be a bad memory in my family tree, you know?
Now, you know what's going to be really nihilistic? One of my uncles told me this. He said, at some point, none of us will be remembered. Not even whoever from the past, not even George Washington. At some point in the future, none of us will be remembered. Not to get like dark or nihilistic,
I mean,
but
it
it's
is
just
what it is.
Yeah, but like he was like telling me like eventually at some point, like when the earth is gone, none of us will be remembered. So it's so interesting how and I feel the same way. I'm not saying I also want to be remembered. Like I have this thing where I'm like, I want to make something out of my life because I want to make an impact, and I also want to be remembered. But the truth is, like, we're all so small, and that at some point none of us will be remembered, even with technology and everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because at some point the earth will be gone.
The only thing that has to happen is that like electricity stops.
Yeah.
And then everything that's been recorded and documented disappears.
Yeah. Holy shit.
Like, that's it. Like, that's all that would need to happen for all of our like advancement to just go in the garbage.
Hey, I mean, my old computer broke and I lost everything on it. And once upon a time, I had actual photos. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know if in your time you guys took photos.
Like with disposable
Polaroid
cameras?
with
Oh,
disposable
Polaroids, okay.
cameras or whatever.
Yeah.
And I still have those photos from when I was
Right.
little.
And albums and stuff, yes.
Exactly. But any photos that I took on my phone or on a digital camera from when I was like 19, 20-ish, they're gone now because my computer broke. So it's
Dang.
interesting how like
Right.
I have no record of those things. I have like a few photos of my 1920s and like I cherish those, but like a lot of photos and memories are just like gone, you know?
I feel like I don't take enough photos. And before we get into anything else, I feel like my age group is like, we're like in betweeners. Like, we're not
Yeah.
the teenagers anymore. We're not like your age group. We're like in our 20s going into our late 20s, and it's like there's things I don't understand about the younger kids, and then the older people, like they're coming to like a crisis. Oh my gosh, I'm either turning 30 or I just turned 30, and it's like, man, we're all so young still. Like your age, you're mad young, bro. Like I
Yeah.
look at myself and I'm just like, man, if I could see 40, if I could see 50, 60, 70, like I'm gonna be so grateful. And I know that a lot of people look at like younger kids look at 20 as being old, or 21, 22. I remember with my ex, like her sister was, I don't know, 16, 17, 18, and she'd ask me like, how old are you again? I'd be like, oh, 21, 22, 23, whatever age I was. And then she'd be like, you're so old. And I'm just like, bro, like you're going to be here in no fucking time.
And actually, like going back to our conversation before about how small we are in the big scheme of things, if you really think about that, like my age and like an 100-year-old, we're really not that far apart. You know what I mean? Like you know. My dad used to always joke about mayflies because they always lived for a day. Like, yeah, at least that's what he said. He said that mayflies only live for a day, and he would like laugh about it and be like, "Oh, mayflies only live for a day. So what do they like? Watch TV in like 30 seconds and like have their wedding in 30 seconds or like whatever." He was like making jokes about
It's
it.
like remember, did you ever watch B Movie?
No.
When they're born 5 days ago and then they're going to college and then the next day they're in the workforce. Like
exactly, like that's how he described it. But like we're probably mayflies to something else, you know?
I mean, just look at trees. Like you ever seen those big those big redwood trees, whatever they're called in California? They live hundreds of years and they're just there chilling, like being trees, you know. And it just makes you feel like humans feel so self-important. And I just think that's really arrogant. I mean, it's a lot of ego for me to want to be remembered or whatever, but I think the most important thing, if the actuality of things is that we don't reach as many people as we want, at least we reach the people we do and we make it meaningful. Because like we take for granted how important the moments of our lives are. And it's only when we look back at those moments that we realize like, yeah, that was such a good experience. Like, so why can't we just enjoy it in the moment? Why does everything in the moment have to be looked through such a sour lens? I'm gonna speak for myself. Like sometimes I just don't appreciate things.
Oh yeah. I think we all experience that where we're like always wanting the better thing or, you know, whatever. Like right now, I'm like thinking about relocating to another state, and like all I can think about is that, like, how am I going to do it? How am I going to reach my goal? And it's like sometimes I'm so focused on that I'm like not appreciating the fact that I'm here with this glass of wine and it's a beautiful night out. You know what I mean? Like, so I agree with that completely.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like,
you said you liked turtles. What do you relate to turtles? Because now that reminds me of that.
That's why I think that's one of my spirit animals. Whatever that may be, I just use that as like a term because I know it's a popular term. But ever since I was a kid, that was just an animal that I always looked at. I was like, I like that. Like that thing looks freaking weird. Yeah. It's a lizard inside a shell. It has its home on its back, and then it's just walking around. But really, like, what I like about them, there's something that I'm realizing, because when you're a kid, you don't understand why you like them. But then once you're an adult, I could kind of reflect on it in a more deeper intellectual way. And you see a sea turtle, right? When they're on land, they're kind of dragging themselves. Mm-hmm. It's not really their environment. But then when they're in the water, and you ever see like a video of a sea turtle swimming, it looks like they're flying, like they're so graceful in the water, just so slow, and they're gliding. And it's like, I think it's very poetic, because when he was on land, he was struggling. He's dragging himself. He's vulnerable to predators. But when he's in his habitat, he's there. He's killing it. Like, that's where he belongs and where he's most beautiful. And I think I relate to that, because it's like, I've always felt like I was in a place where like this doesn't feel right. And when I'm, for example, making music or I'm expressing myself like I'm doing now, this feels like I'm a sea turtle gliding through the water where I'm supposed to be.
I think like that's awesome. Like, because the reason I'm asking is because I've had some spiritual encounterments with turtles like in my life. One happened recently, but the one that comes to mind the most is that it wasn't recently. It was like a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. I had a dream about like a lady passed away and she had like a bunch of turtles in her house. Like that was my dream. Like it was just like, she passed away and she had like a house filled with turtles. And then literally the next day, my stepmom calls me and she's like, hey, there's a estate sale. Like a lady in the neighborhood passed away and she's selling all her stuff. We're gonna go over and like buy furniture or whatever.
Okay.
If you want to come. And then I went to her house. This was literally a day later. I went to her house and she collected little turtles, and it gave me the chills because that was the dream I had. It was exactly what happened. It was like a lady passed away. In the dream, there was real turtles. Like, it wasn't exactly like it was in real life, but in real life, she collected these little like glass turtles. So I was like kind of freaked out by that. I was like, maybe the turtle is my spirit animal. I also think I think I have two spirit animals. I think the snake is my spirit animal too. But and then the other encounter I had with a turtle lately was on Route 206. I don't know if you're familiar with this area right here because you're from Union. Yeah. But there was a turtle crossing the highway. And all the cars stopped, and a man got out of his car to like help the turtle like cross over or go back to the woods or wherever he was. And like I was just like, I think this might be my spirit animal. Like, I want my spirit animal to be a snake. I have like a snake tattoo, but I think the turtle is, because I keep having these like turtle things, you know?
Right.
But I don't even know anything about turtles or like anything. So.
Yeah, dude, man, I used to have like turtle stuffed animals. In fact, I still have them. They're in storage, but they're there. Yeah. Like this shows just how creative I was as a kid. I had a stuffed turtle, like green, and his name was, yes, you guessed it, Turtley.
Turtley.
Yeah, so like amongst other different stuffed animals and little turtle figurines, it was just, I always loved turtles, and like Squirtle from Pokemon. Like,
yeah.
And so I think now this year has shown me a lot, and I'm coming to a place where instead of trying to look for outside fulfillment, I'm looking inward and just trying to, reach towards all the things that used to bring me joy when I was younger, because those are the things that are kind of always with you, like when I was a kid, I used to love skateboarding. And even today, even though I don't do it as often, whenever I do, I feel mad free. Like if you ever spoke to a skateboarder or a longboarder or a surfer, it's such a freeing experience.
I dated a guy once that said he longboarded and that he said it was the best feeling, that it felt better than sex. And I got mad because we were dating, and I was like, it's better than sex. And he was like, he's like, I'm sorry, but it's the best feeling I ever had. He's like, I felt like the best. Like he said it felt like God, like to freeboard or longboard.
Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree. Like it's one of those things. So it's like a really special thing. I don't know what it is about it. It's very freeing. Weird. It is weird.
Yeah.
It's very freeing. So even now, like I think it was either today or yesterday, because I'm coming to the realization of all this. This is all new kind of things that I'm discovering about myself and coming to accept. So I ordered a mask, like a face mask for this COVID stuff, and it has like little turtles on it.
Oh, nice.
Just to kind of like, start to express myself more. Like, yeah, I love turtles. I don't know why, there was something about me growing up where I feel like I tried to stifle myself. I don't know, it's such a weird thing. So I'm trying to understand it. Like I would try to stifle myself and try to leave certain things in the past, but it's like, dude, I like turtles. Yeah. That's it. Even like I had a few years ago, I made this album cover that I haven't used yet, but I still might use in the future. The album was going to be called Finger Food. And it was going to be about, just a little assortment of songs to keep people satiated, finger food. And the visuals, I'll show you after this. The visual was like a little tiny turtle with a chef's hat. He had like a little spatula and a chef's outfit, and he's looking at this huge plate of like a sandwich cut into fours with like an olive through it, and a giant woman's hand kind of grabbing it. So it's kind of like representing how artists, like, they put so much painstaking effort into making their art, and then it's just like taking like, ooh, like just consumed so quickly and easily.
I know what
like
you mean.
Finger food.
Yeah,
right. So it's like, I think my mascot, like, how for a few albums Kanye had like the little bear mascot, like mine would be a turtle.
Yeah,
because it's like I kind of take a lot of time with things, but even going to the fable of the tortoise and the hare,
I was just gonna say that too.
I feel like eventually I'm going to win in the end.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like, that's why I think like the turtle is known for wisdom, because it's like he takes his time with things, and he may not be flashy and everything at once, but he's gonna win. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it makes a lot of sense.
And I think that a lot of that stuff, like, it really means something. Like, it's not just a silly thing. Like, oh, I used to like, this kind of animal when I was a kid. I used to like drawing. I think that stuff really means something. Like, it resonates with us. But for whatever reason, a lot of times life kind of like bleaches all that out of us. Like, okay, now it's time to do this.
Yeah, like all the magic in life like gets taken away when you get stuck with like bank accounts and school and whatever, like things like that we get caught up in, that we think we have to do. But you're right. I do feel like lately life has been, I don't know, like what your religious views are. Right now where I am, I consider myself agnostic in the sense that like, I believe something's there, but I don't know what that thing is necessarily.
Right.
And I'm open-minded, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. And I'm not willing to put my cards on one thing just yet.
Yeah.
But I have noticed lately that there's been like a lot of signs, like there's been a lot of things coming to me lately, and like a lot of signs through sometimes animals, like I said, the turtle crossing the highway, and like different animal things, or like if I pray, I've been noticing weird things happening and stuff lately. But I do think life can be very magic, and like there could be a lot of little things in life that whoever, like I said, I don't know who it is or what it is, but God or the universe or whatever is showing you. And like you said, we do get numb to it sometimes with like stupid things like, oh, your grades, or I don't know, whatever.
What if God is like a universal Siri or Alexa? Doesn't it make sense? Like how everybody speaks about God, you ask and it shall be fulfilled, or whatever it is. Like when you pray, just think about it. Like when you're talking to an Alexa, you're like, hey, blah, 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 look this up. When you're praying, you're asking for like peace of mind, you know, I don't know, financial stability or things like this. Like
it's like we created our own God through Alexa.
something like that. I think because even in the Bible, it says, you know, God is in all things. And outside of this metaphor, I really do think that that's true. Like there are so many microcosms, you know, like bigger things being in smaller things, big lessons being in little lessons. Like it's so real, dude. It's like the universe is inside us and outside us. It's just I've been kind of on like a spiritual journey for this past year or two, over these few years, but now it's like I'm able to say like, oh, I kind of get it in a way. Like when it comes to me in religion, I would say that I'm religious in a way, but I like non-denominational. Like I don't like people telling me what things are.
Yeah.
I like kind of interpreting them and accepting what I want to. Like when somebody says this is this and like putting something in such a strict box annoys me. And then it almost makes me be like, you know, there is no, you know, like that kind of, but like inside I know that there's something.
Yeah.
And I know that something is inside as well as outside. You know,
that's how I feel too. It's like I know something's there, but I also feel like I can't put it in a box. Or I've been to church a couple times, and like sometimes I do feel funny like going to church. I'm going to be completely honest. Like
it feels very ritualistic, right?
Yeah.
It's like what we were talking about earlier. It's like the playing the music without the soul.
Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And like sometimes I notice because like in my spiritual journey of wanting to like kind of discover what's out there, or, you know, find my place spiritually, I found that sometimes at church, like the people are animalistic there. Like sometimes they're competitive or like, like I found at like my local church, I feel like this area, I went to the same church that my grandmother went to, and I feel like my grandmother lived in like a ritzy kind of area. And when I was at that church, I felt like it was like a fashion show. Like all the women were there with like fancy purses.
They all want to show out on Sunday and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So
I mean, there's a really like deep rooted cultural acceptance or cultural understanding or misinterpretation that like being rich or being wealthy or being well off is a sign of being blessed by God. And I think that's mad unhealthy. Like super unhealthy. Like, so what does that say about like people who are super like disenfranchised around the world, who are living in extreme poverty? It's like, so are you trying to say like God hates them? Like, that's messed up. You know what I'm saying? But I think that a lot of people believe that kind of stuff, like that crazy kind of stuff.
That's
like
not right.
It's not right. So people will go to church wearing their Sunday best. I guess that's where it comes from. And then they'll try to put as much money in the box or whatever, the pan that passes around, to flex. They're just trying to flex.
Again, it's that animalistic nature. Like you can't even take it away from church. Like we're going to be animals.
We're trying to show out at all times. And I think it's in the wrong ways, you know, like it's all very surface level things. And it never made sense to me, because I grew up in a religion where it's like they kind of weren't like that. They weren't like passing the pan around. They would be like, hey, like if you guys want to contribute, because I mean we got to keep the lights on type thing. But we weren't paying for somebody's lifestyle, which is true for a lot of churches and things like this. But like that kind of church always felt like more like, okay, you guys are kind of taking advantage of people's need to be spiritual and find fulfillment through spiritual activities like singing. In almost every church, there's singing.
Singing
and
music,
if it's a release.
Yeah.
But what if we could have that same spiritual activity just by doing like secular singing? You know what I'm saying? Like I was telling my friend the other day how the first time I went to a J. Cole concert, my favorite artist, as I mentioned before, it felt like a religious experience. And that's not me saying like, oh, he's a god or whatever. I respect him as an artist. He's a person.
Yeah.
But if I met him, I probably would be a little bit starstruck because it's the person I've been hearing do so many amazing things, say amazing things. I probably would still be like, oh, it's you, type stuff. But that's a person. Just like how I'm me, you're you, we're regular people. It's just that artists who we end up idolizing, which I don't even like calling people idols. You know what I'm saying? Because idol literally means God.
Oh, I didn't know that. What language is that, or like what?
That's just what it means.
Wow, I didn't know that.
It means so. I know that's been so like regular in our culture. Oh, that's my idol. When you really mean that's somebody who like inspires me. I look up to, whether it be their skill or whatever. But that's what it means, and it's crazy because in the Bible it says to take no false idols. So that's something that I grew up understanding. Like, okay, yeah, I think that a lot of the person I ended up being today was because I was in a religion that really taught you like this is what the Bible says, and like it was more of a positive thing for me instead of like a restrictive thing, even though there were restraints and stuff. But it taught me a lot of good lessons.
I literally just spilt wine like all over myself.
Bro.
It's not even because I'm drunk or anything. It's because I talk like with my wine.
Right, you're like, oh yeah.
You're like,
Yo,
oh yeah, like
there was like when I was here and then I drank that, like I got to a level of tipsy that I was like, oh, this is an issue.
You're like, you're good now. Well, at least you don't have to drive home. So.
True that. But I'm gonna have to walk to the train station.
I'll walk you there so that I can make sure you get there safely. Or I could even drive. I probably shouldn't drive you though. I should probably walk you.
And you had two, right? Or two?
I had two. I could legally drive you. I think the legal limit is 2 drinks.
2 drinks. Yeah. But like, so, yeah, that always seemed wrong to me, even as a kid. Like, like taking, I don't know how if all churches do this, taking 10% of somebody's income, you know what I'm saying? And then basically giving off the idea that the more you give, the more you're going to get into heaven. Mm-hmm. What does God have? Would God need money?